Let's see here. It looks like on my page, looks like yep, looks like we are good right now, man. It looks like I'm getting the notification that we are all right to go. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and just jump right into this. So, welcome, guys. This is our I'd Rather Be Fishing to show, and today we're actually talking to a good buddy of mine, a good friend of mine, someone who actually had a big role in helping me get into rod building and really helped build Apollo Fishing to where we're at today. So, I'm not talking about you, Fabian. I'm talking about Kevin over there, Kevin behind you. So, Kevin, thanks for taking some time to come onto our show today.
No worries. It's a pleasure, man. I was honored.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, right off the bat, man, like, what's that standing behind you? What do you got? Where are you at?
I'm actually in the home office.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our little room here where we build up some stuff and do some live feeds and share the builds with the kids and have a good time.
Yeah. So you got this big trophy gator behind you. What's that all about?
Yeah, so that's one of our big boys. That's a 12-3 that we caught. It's going back probably 8 years now. Most gators that we take now, we take with clients. So it's rare that I get to hunt one personally. But I lucked out about 8 years ago, had a client cancel at the last minute and took some friends out and got lucky, came across that big boy, and the fight was on. That was a good one.
Good deal, man.
How much bigger above average is that? Like, what's the average, I guess, size that y'all normally drop?
I mean, we're known for our big ones. So most of our clients go after 9+ and 10+ hunts. But in the state, the state gives out about 6,000 permits. And of those permits, half of them go unfilled. And of the half that are filled, the average taken is like mid-sixes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 12 feet
But
So when the state gives out permits, are they giving them to you, or are they giving them to your clients, or how does that work?
so they do a little bit of both. So we do a state hunt. That's a complete random draw. We get no preference as an outfitter or as a guide. And in that case, we'll pull tags, as we can in the lottery. It's complete luck of the draw.
Yeah.
And we'll guide clients on our own tags. And then we'll also guide clients for those who drew their own tags. Now, on private land, we have contracts and licenses through big private landowners to guide our clients year-round on tags that the landowner has acquired from the state.
Okay, so there's different ways of getting tags. And how many tags does the state give on an annual basis?
In the state hunt, it's about 6,000.
Okay.
And on private land, I'm not sure. It's actually not very many. There's a lot of requirements to have a big enough property to get tags from the state, and it's not an easy ordeal. So gator hunting, it's not like just buying an over-the-counter deer tag or going hog hunting. It's highly regulated, and it takes some working to figure things out.
And
does that change like year by year, or I mean, are they taking obviously counts or stuff like that, or census of it?
Kind of lost a little bit of the audio there, but yeah,
does it change the amount based on what they numbers of the previous year?
Yes, exactly. So every gator harvested has a 3-sheet carbon copy bunch of paperwork that gets filled out and sent to the state, gets filled out and sent to a processor, ultimately gets put into a database for the state, and they look at every region, every lake, every section of a county, and they will do surveys on top of that to make sure that they're not over harvesting, or maybe they need to release more tags for a certain area.
Yeah.
It's definitely looked after very closely. It's like everything, right? Where there's money, they want to manage it properly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. The state makes a ton of money on their gators.
I mean, that's a Florida's known for, right? Florida gators and just kind of like all that. You think about Louisiana, but really, I mean, Louisiana and Florida come to mind. Kind of those states in between Mississippi, and you just kind of get a little bit forgotten about. But...
Yeah, we get a lot of hunters actually from Louisiana.
Really?
Which is kind of funny. I'm like, why? What? It's kind of funny you come here, but ultimately, the reason they share with us, at least if you guys have talked to us, is they don't average the big gators that we do.
Okay.
And something else that we do is we guarantee a certain size based on a client's requirements and what their preferences are. So we price our hunts based on size brackets, and that puts the extra pressure on us, right?
So how do you manage that?
If we don't,
how do you know, like, oh man, like this guy, like he wants the big gators, like, how do you know where to go, or like what are you doing different as you're going?
Sure. So we have certain areas that we know, a certain size average might be available in, and we've got like trophy areas where we would only take a client who wants a giant, and we have other areas where we know there's more mid-sized gators where we'll take those types of clients. We just kind of manage it that way, and then ultimately it just comes down to a pressure cooker. You got to figure it out when you're out there.
Oh man, that's crazy. So
But this is like public land, though, right?
Yeah, we do the same thing on both private and public. We guarantee the different size brackets. We do offer one little bit different hunt on the open hunt. On public land, we offer one side of it there that people can pick a hunt area that will just guarantee them a gator and not guarantee them a size. But no minimum, no max.
This is obviously like ethics and just, things between hunters that you're just kind of sharing that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's cool.
So how old were you when you got your first gator? I mean, obviously, like I've seen big gators. That gator was probably twice my size, and you've probably been doing this for a long time. So when did you get your first gator? What was that like?
It was unbelievable. Like a lot of people, I didn't have anybody in my life who gator hunted before. Oh, we gotta say hi. We got a visitor. Who's that?
What's going
say
on?
Hi. Hey, what's your name? Lukey.
Oh, man.
Hey, talking about gator hunting. Have you been on a gator hunt?
Do you like big gators or small gators? He can't hear.
Big one or a small one?
Big one.
How big? That big?
Wow, that's really big.
Yeah. What you need, buddy? Oh no. What do you need? Something?
No.
Okay, go get camo. So my wife's out.
We have orange in the pantry.
You can't open the pantry?
That's a life-threatening event going on there at home, and I know all about it. So if you need to step up and open the pantry, we can.
Hey, do you need something?
No.
No, you're good. Okay.
Let me have orange in the pantry.
Let me open the pantry real quick.
Oh, yeah, no, it's
Exactly.
yeah, man, it's just like, I mean, I have my daughter here, and obviously she comes around, jumps around, and so having your kids around, especially like I don't realize it until like my wife's gone, and so like, hey, I gotta go do this, and she'll leave my daughter here, and the next thing I know is my daughter's here like laying down on the floor and like, daddy, 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 daddy. I was on a meeting the other day. We were doing a lot of these virtual meetings, and I was in a meeting, and like for like 30 minutes. Non-stop she was daddy, 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 and everybody in the meeting was laughing just because they just kept on hearing her. It's just like it's a different environment. Just kind of working at home, being at home, and just kind of being at home with your kids, and kind of how that's affecting kind of everything we do. But it's I honestly, like looking back on like the last 3 or 4 months since I've been at home, I've definitely built a different type of relationship with my daughter, just because I spend a lot more time with her and kind of seeing these candid moments at school. So I'm glad you were able to take care of that big emergency and open the pantry, and looks like everything's going to be good from there, Kevin. Looks like we're okay. So
yeah, everything's good.
You were telling us about your first gator hunt. So what was that like?
So the first gator hunt was probably, man, I'm gonna make myself feel old here, but it's probably about 20 years ago. I was about 16, and just kind of fumbled our way through it. Borrowed gear, traded gear, didn't have anything, just wanted to go after it, and spent, I mean, I don't even know how many nights doing all-nighters trying to figure it out. And we'd hook some gators and let them go, just having it in our mind, right? We just had to get a big one. Like you see pictures and like, oh, we're not going to settle for anything less. And to be honest, we broke off probably the biggest gator I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, it haunts me every night. It's like that giant bass, or whatever you got that got away. And long story short, we fought him for over an hour on 2 rods and reels. Pulled him up, harpooned him, got him up, and he went absolutely nuts and broke off both rods and wrapped the entire harpoon line with a big boat buoy around his belly, went down and swam off. And we drugged that section of the canal for hours and hours that night, hoping we could snag him or one of our lines that was still attached to him. And we actually snagged up both treble hooks that fell out of him. Just complete luck.
God, yeah.
But never found that gator. Came back the next day, tried to find our buoy, tried to find everything else. The next night, I went out with a friend and tried to help him get his gator on his boat with his tag. Actually, on my boat, on his tag. We killed an 11-footer, and it looked like a baby compared to what we lost the night before.
That's the way it goes, man. So just like fishing, right? A big fish knows how to maneuver his way around these type of situations. Has a little bit of little scars on him from these kind of learning experiences, and that's how they get to be so big, huh?
Absolutely. We get them all the time where they'll have a harpoon buried in them, or we'll go skinning one and we'll find a broadhead deep inside one, or a spot where a bullet ricocheted off their head. They're brutally tough animals.
So what is so I mean I can't imagine, like, or I just don't know what it's like to go on a gator hunt. So like, what are you looking for? How are you, like, what kind of equipment do you have on the bow? Like, what are you doing, like, when you go out for them?
Sure. So it really depends on where we're at. That kind of dictates how we hunt. But we're always prepared for anything, because just like fishing, you never know what opportunity might present itself. It really is, just like fishing. You may see all of a sudden there's a topwater action. You throw a topwater over there. Well, if I see a gator slinking along up top, I'm going to throw a lighter treble hook across the top and snag it across his back and snag him up. Whereas if I'm in an area where there's deeper water, gators are spookier, I might find a spot in the grass where I saw a big gator go down, and then find the grass moving and drag a big treble hook through the bottom, and try to snag them off the bottom without ever seeing them.
So you rely a lot on the snagging, like just throwing out and trying to snag something. Is that baited, or is it they're just kind of just hooks loose and just trying to snag something?
Yep, just trying to snag them. We'll bait on occasion, but very rarely, just because. Hey, buddy. Yes, go ahead. Sorry, Mom was at dinner with the ladies from church, so I got Daddy at the same time.
Very good.
I got three and a puppy to take care of, so that might happen a few more times.
Don't worry about it, man. We're all human. We're all kind of going through the same thing. So.
But sometimes we'll bait. I don't really prefer to bait by any means, just because, just like fishing, if you just sit there and chunk bait, it may happen, it may not. But in the meantime, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
I like our hunts to be action packed, and we can still make some action happen with the bait. It just really depends on how the gators are acting. If I see a big one in a certain area, I might try to use the current or the wind or something to drift the bait way back to them. But we're never just, first off, in the state of Florida, especially on public ground, you cannot leave a bait somewhere, like tie it to a tree and come back, or try a jug and put it in the middle of the lake and come back and try to find it. It's illegal. In Louisiana and whatnot, you see it on swamp people. Those are areas where they have leased up big acres of property, and they can hang hooks, come back and get their gators.
Yeah.
Public land in Florida, your line has to be attached to you or your boat the entire time.
Okay. But you can have as many lines out as you'd like. You just they got to be attached to the boat.
As far as I know, there's no limit to the number. We might drop one or two, baits back and keep those attached. There might be some law that says you can't have 20 or something. I don't know. We drop one, maybe two, but we don't sit there and, I don't bait and wait.
Yeah.
We might put in 15 minutes on a gator, but the last thing I want to do is burn up a client tonight on something that may not happen. So I'd rather, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If not, we'll go find something to make it happen.
And obviously we watch the Swamp People and all that stuff, and based on what I watched there, I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
They're obviously looking for bubbles, doing whatever it is, and they're just throwing that treble hook in there, and that's basically what you do, correct?
Yeah. Again, depending on where we're hunting, sometimes we'll pick them off the bottom like that, or it comes into play a lot when we can tie in some rod building stuff here. I'll build specific rods for casting as far as possible, because it never fails that big giant knows how to just stay right outside your casting range, right? It's just like a big redfish or a school of fish, and it's like, man, they're staying up, and you get right to where you can make a cast, and they go down. It's the same with a big gator, and you can play games and cat and mouse and sometimes trick them, but we've dialed in some custom layups. I use a Penn long cast reel to really reach out as far as I can. Just like fishing, we'll dial back our line size to try to help us make that further cast, knowing that a lot of times we're going to eventually break one off because we're using a lighter line. But I've got a couple rigs here that I can cast. My furthest cast so far is 127 yards.
Oh wow!
And
damn, how do you like? It's crazy. It's like it's not 130. It's not 125. It's 127. So Kevin, what's the tolerance there on that number there? I'm just joking with you.
That's from the dock on the laser rangefinder.
Right.
I'll take big boat buoys.
Okay.
And I just keep pushing them back until I can't snag them anymore. And the way I get them back in is I snag them and pull them in. Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's crazy. Like you have a range finder out there to know like what's in your range and what's not in your range, and
absolutely.
That's a very interesting thing. I've never applied that to fishing, but I can see where that would be relevant if you're trying to figure out like where you see fish out there, and it's just really cool, man. I never really even thought about that.
Yeah, it's literally, it's such a far cast, you can't see it hit. Like it's all of a sudden your spool just stops going out.
Yeah.
Like, so in some cases you don't even know if you're in line with the gator because it's so far, and all of a sudden you're reeling, and next thing you know, it's game on, he's on there. And at the same time, if you miss, it's gonna take 2, 3, 4 minutes to reel all that line back in.
Yeah.
So if I miss, I hand it off to a client or whoever and say, hey, reel this in, and I'll grab my other rod and make a cast while he's reeling that in. Because if that gator's in that range, at some point he's going to know something's up and go down.
Yeah.
So the quicker I can fire off a second cast, it's everything we can do to get that client that big gator, we do it.
So for 40 yards, I don't need a rangefinder because that's about as far as I can.
Yeah, we just
throw it. So I'm all right.
Look at how much line we got left on our spool, right? It's like, I spooled up.
And normally it's a whole bunch on mine.
Yeah, and on our bait casters, we try not to cast very far because that's a lot more line to cut and lose once it spools up on us. But
come on, you're better than that. You're better than that.
A little bit, not very much. But I have buddies that are, but I'll let them take all the glory for it. But,
yeah.
But so is that how you got into rod building? I mean, so you talk about going out there for gators and you're trying to get these far casts, and I can imagine it's extremely hard to find something off the shelf that's made for that, and I could see where that would tailor itself to kind of getting into the custom rod world. So was that how you transitioned to kind of the empire you built around the rod building?
No, it's actually, just a benefit of rod building. I got into rod building when I think I was 14 years old. A friend at the time left a kit on my parents' doorstep for me to build. He knew I loved to fish, and put a kit on my parents' doorstep. And I thought, I don't know what to do with this. This was before YouTube, Facebook, and all that stuff, and I had nothing. I had one little book, and it was black and white, and I had an old VHS on how to build a rod, and the VHS was worse than the book. It was all squiggly. The audio was horrible. I mean, it was just like, so luckily there was a little bit of black and white pictures in this book. And the only part that I remember being able to understand was picture by picture, caption by caption, how to wrap a guide.
Okay.
And I sat there on my parents' kitchen room table late one night because, to be honest, the kit sat in my closet for months. Oh, I see somebody peeking.
I tell you, just it's part of here, but
I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Too cute.
But
so that kit sat in my closet because I didn't want to build it. I just wanted to fish. Well, we got set up to go for a fishing trip, and I wanted a fishing rod. I was like, well, I can't justify buying one when I could try to build this one. So I built that fishing rod on our kitchen room table. It was like 2 a.m. Before the fishing trip the next day.
wow. That's your all-nighter there, yeah.
Yeah. So I built it all night, and it looked horrible. And I hung it in my parents' blazer because it had a wet epoxy on it for the entire drive to the Keys. And somehow when we got to the Keys, it was still in one piece. And that's where I got started. And just, luckily I still have that rod. I never
was about to
changed
ask
it.
you that.
So,
Yeah.
so my question around this is, did it work?
Yes.
Yes.
It did.
And that's one thing I tell a lot of people too. I mean, you don't have to be a pro. Your wraps don't have to be on point. I mean, a lot of that's cosmetic. And you know,
Yeah.
and
Most of it.
yeah, you know, there's a lot of controversy if you build on the spine, you straight axis, whatever it may be. There's a lot of different ways to build a rod. But really, like, I encourage people to go out there and build their own rods and just build an appreciation, or just kind of go through that experience. And I tell people, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, you'll catch a lot of fish. That rod will last you a long time. And I'm glad to hear that your story, your experience is the same as mine. That you just, I mean, I still have my old rod there, my first rod too. I have it there at the shop, and I kind of, I brag on it that it's so horrible. You know?
Yeah.
It's all like, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, in order for you to have, and I get it, right? There's a certain amount of craftsmanship that goes into like these amount of details, but performance wise, like, as long as you know, people used to build rods on bamboo sticks and, you know, canes and like whatever, and so I don't know. I tell people not to get too caught up on kind of the actual build, and really, you know, if you're gonna build your rod and you want to do your own, like, there's a lot you can do with it. It's a low risk type thing. And it's something that you'll appreciate. And I've had people that come in and they build their own rods and they say, I'm never going to build another rod again. And so I'm sure you see a lot of that. Yeah, that's Fabian too. Fabian actually never finished his build. He started.
It's still there.
It's still there.
It's still
been
there
there for like 7 months. And every time I go to the shop, I see it and I see it there. And it's like, Fabian, like, come on, dude. Like, he's all like,
I told Sam, because we opened up the shop, you know, not too long ago, and I told him, that rod is finished. That means we're not doing very good, and I have a lot of time on my hands. I go, so I don't want that rod to be done anytime soon.
I love it. And you know, to that point too, you know what? That's okay, because the nice thing about it is it's not going to go bad. So at any point, you sit down and wrap another guide, and then if it's 6 months or 6 years, you wrap the next guide. At some point, it gets done, and it's going to work.
yeah.
I think it's that, though. It's that passion, because, again, you know, we've had some clients come in here, you know, during the classes that we did in the very beginning, and now they're hooked.
Yeah.
You know, they're hooked with it, and you know, but we also had some other ones who got frustrated, you know. I mean, I'm one of them that goes a little small little guide to the top. My fat fingers couldn't get around them, you know, and get it done right, you know. So it frustrated me, but you know, but some of these guys really got addicted to it, and they just now love doing it. So I think once you gain that passion, like Sam said, it doesn't matter how nice it looks, but I think once you gain that passion of it, that's what kind of it kind of veers that way, where they want to make it look as nice as possible now.
Yeah.
And I really, that's where Kevin's been helpful for me. I mean, I've had a lot of questions along my rod building campaign and experience, or whatever it may be. But like, I just feel that you know, you have to have someone there to help you and tell you it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be great. And for me, it was Kevin, and then for some of our people, we've helped them do that. But at the end of the day, like, it's cool to look back on your piece of junk that you built and have a lot of pride in it, right? Like, you may not have appreciated it as much at that time, but later in the future, yeah.
I'm definitely proud of the first 3 wraps that I did. I
I
still look
love
at
it.
them.
So Kevin, we
Me
got a
too.
question here. What's the longest, heaviest gator you've landed?
So we took a 13.3, and it was, gosh, was that 2 years ago? It was a gator on a piece of private property that was eating calves. It was on a cattle ranch,
Wow.
and he was enormous. We didn't even try to pull him out of the water with our hands. We literally took a big John Deere tractor and just had to pull him out of the water that way. He was enormous. Yeah.
So what happens to that? I mean, y'all harvest it, y'all get the meat and all that stuff, or
Yes, absolutely. So I'm 100% conservationist, with the sport in mind. And a nice benefit of gators is nothing, I mean, nothing goes to waste aside from bones and guts. But the hide gets used, gets turned into leather. All the meat gets harvested. Obviously, a big gator like that, someone's going to taxidermy the head probably. So it all goes to good use.
Yeah, and
so are those people who are you're dealers with, or like you personally keep the stuff, or how does that work?
So the clients dictate what happens, right? It's their gator.
Okay.
We don't do any commercial harvesting. Everything that we do is based on what our clients want, and they decide if they want to have it processed or taxidermied or tanned. And the nice thing about it is if they say, hey, you know what, no, I'm good with the picture, um, we can then take the gator for them to a buyer, a processor, who can then buy it from them. You don't make much money. That market has
Yeah.
gone way downhill, but nonetheless, it will be bought and used even if they don't use it.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
No, that's awesome, man, and it's just crazy. It's really amazing to see just kind of like just conservation in general. We talked about it in conservation of fishing, but really it's conservation of anything out there, just our natural environment out there, and whatever it is you do. And I mean, like conservation of gators doesn't come to mind to me. I just can't. I can't put that into context because where we're at here. I mean, there's not a lot, and where you see them, they're more of like I don't want to say nuisance. A few times you do, and people have horror stories about them, but it's really cool to see kind of a different extreme where people in different areas have a different level of appreciation for them.
So
Yeah,
is it like
especially I'm a Gator fan, right? So I went to University of Florida. It's kind of like sacrilegious on every level, but no, the nice thing about it is you're exactly right. I mean, gators, especially the way they're harvested, protected, and the conservation is just on the forefront.
and I'm curious to know, like, is it like a like whitetail deer hunting? You kind of see that one deer you want, you see it year after year, you name it, you know who it is, you know which one it is, and you go after it year after year. Do you all recognize these gators that you may have missed at one time?
Yes, yeah, and sometimes we name them. Yeah, uh, it never fails. You want to say hi, Hunter? Say hi.
Hi, Hunter.
How many gators have you hunted with, Daddy? So he's been with me on 2 hunts. He actually bang sticked his first gator at 3.5 years old. And
Wow.
Not for you.
were you 4?
Yeah.
Okay, Luke was 3.5. Hunter was 4. But yeah, so we'll have some in certain areas, like a big whitetail buck. They'll typically have a home range
Yeah.
and stick to that area. But just like a buck, they'll get spooked and they'll leave it, and you'll never see them again till maybe the next year when things settle down. But we had one that we nicknamed Pighead, which is kind of a silly name. But if you think about it, a pig's head is kind of as tall as it is wide, so it's blocky, right?
Yeah.
It's really just kind of square. Well, this guy, every time we saw him, he was always in the same area, and his head looked like a pig head because it sat so high out of the water relative to the rest of his body. It was really weird. I mean, we've seen thousands of gators, and this guy was so obvious every time you saw him because his head would sit way up high. And I had a client with me, and I said, hey, look at that gator over there. And it was, half a mile across the lake. And he's looking through his binoculars. He goes, nah, that's a a tree. It's a log. And nice guy, but relatively cocky contractor, you know. And he's like, if he's being basically calling me a liar. And I said, I'm telling you, that's a gator. No, that's not a gator. I said, okay, well, you keep your eyes on that log. And I put the boat on plane and ran at that log, and it went down, you know. And he put his binoculars down, and his eyes about popped out of his head, you know. He's like, oh my goodness. So I actually got 2 hooks in that gator one evening by myself. I was scouting for a hunt the next day, and I got lucky and stumbled across him. And I was solo in a 15-foot bass boat, and everything inside me said, "Don't do this, don't do this," you know.
But it also said, "Do it."
Just that one little thing on the side that was able to convince him, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we got him hooked up, but he pulled every trick in the book, and being solo, I snapped him off twice. But a friend of mine did get him a year later, and we all knew which gator it was.
Big head, yeah.
And what happened. Yeah. And the reason why we would see his head so high in the water, we found out, was because his spine was broken.
Oh, wow.
And his tail, about halfway down, looked like a Z, a fixed Z. So for whatever reason, when he swam, it made him push his head up higher than the rest. And just a funny story. But yeah, there's a few out there that we see every year that are just like, man, one of these years. But and then again, there's a few too that were like, you know what? No matter what we do, can't get close. That guy's gonna die of old age.
He knows better. He's an experienced. He's a vet. He's a Deion Sanders or something. So what are some of the names that you come for gators? I mean, what's obviously Pighead is pretty cool too. But I mean, like, what are other kind of like, what triggers you to give a gator a name?
I mean, if we see one in an area that, you know, we just can't get for some reason, typically if we see one and we get him, he hasn't earned, you know, that innate, you know. But if we see one that has a unique characteristic, like we have one that we call Quasi for Quasimodo, you know, he's got a big hump on his back, you know.
He's still out there.
He's still out there.
Yeah, you lose your name once you get caught. Like, you lose the right to have a name or an identity once you're on the boat. So that's it.
So
you hook you hook these gators and you bring them to the boat, and then what? Like I mentioned, you said, I heard you say you harpoon some of them get shot. Like, what's the process of kind of stabilizing that or bringing them gators on?
Sure. So, I mean, it all depends. You know, if we're harpooning, if there's a lot of areas where we hunt that are shallow, they're really grassy, and they're super fun. You know, we'll use our airboat in those cases, and we'll literally run the airboat right up to the gator, and you could be going 5 miles an hour, it could be 40 miles an hour. We're going to run that gator right along the side of the boat, and the client's literally going to take an 8-foot harpoon and stick the gator on the fly, and that harpoon's going to bury in the hide. A rope's going to rip out of the boat and throw a buoy out, and it's like Jaws. You watch that buoy, you know, take off down the river. We'll chase him down. We'll load another harpoon, get up to him nice and ginger, and harpoon him again. And then typically at that point, we'll start easing him up. We'll load a bang stick. I got one right here, actually. It's a 357 bullet that goes in the end of a 5-foot pole.
Okay.
And it can only go off on impact. This is not loaded, obviously. This is a barrel.
Yeah.
So if it was loaded, you'd see the back of a casing right here. So we put that in here. There's a firing pin.
When you say impact, there's a spring loaded, or is it you're actually banging it when you put pressure on that barrel?
There are some spring loaded ones. I don't like them at all. It's too much of a risk.
Right, yeah.
This is simply a slide, and there's a fixed firing pin in the bottom of this. So when you slide this against the firing pin, the casing has nowhere to go. It's going to smash that pin and, you know, shoot the bullet off.
Yeah, it's a stop. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
The nice thing about that is it's only going to go off on what you hit. it just better be the gator. You know?
not the boat, not not my foot, not anything. You're gonna have a bad day. So have you had bad days while you've been out there gator hunting? I mean, I can imagine, like, based on with gators, bullets, and kind of a lot of things, I can see like a lot of the opportunity for a lot of things to go wrong.
There are opportunities. I try to hedge them off. You know, make sure everyone comes home with all their digits. No, you know, knock on wood. We've been doing it long enough. I've been guiding 17 years now. I mean, I've had people do amazingly silly things like reach for a gator's head without him being taped, or, you know, kind of like just do silly things that they shouldn't do. But typically, I know what they're going to do before they do it because my eyes are always on my clients, right? You know, I've got to be watching and aware of what they're doing, and I have a read for their personality, how they're acting, how the gator's acting, at what point we are in the hunt, to make sure that everyone stays safe. One time, this is a kind of a crazy story. If you're familiar with crossbows, you realize that they're extremely dangerous, and you got to be really careful on not just the projectile, but the limbs and the string itself. So we had a client who called me up and he wanted to use a crossbow on his hunt. And I said, that's fine. I don't provide a crossbow due to liability reasons, but if you have a crossbow you want to bring, you know, you can bring it. Just make sure you're familiar with it. And he said, okay, no problem. Gets on the boat, super nice, older gentleman, probably mid to late 70s. And we get a giant boat, a gator boat side, and he goes to unzip his crossbow bag, and the Cabela's tags are hanging off the crossbow bag. You know, he's still got the tags hanging off the crossbow itself. You know, he's pulling an arrow out of a new wrapper. I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, this is not the time for him to, you know, make a mistake here. So he cocks the crossbow and he loads his arrow, and it falls through the limbs, which it happens, no big deal. You know, typically you just feed the arrow back up and load it again. Well, instead of reaching under, he reaches through the limbs, cock, to grab his arrow. And his other hand is holding the pistol grip with his finger on the trigger. I'm like, no, like, please. I'm like, and he's, bless his heart, super sweet guy. He's shaking, right? Because he's so excited.
Yeah,
he's so
excited.
nervous.
He's ready to go.
He's up there in age, so, you know, he's in it, but he's working, right? So I'm like, I'm just, please, like, sir, please stop what you're doing. Like, let go of the arrow. Let me help you. Oh, no, I got it. I'm being safe. And all I can see is that his finger touched that trigger and him lose his arm. You know,
because it didn't happen. I mean, you were seeing it as it could happen, but
yeah. So, by the grace of goodness, you know, he gets it loaded again, and he's shaking so much, the arrow falls off, does the same thing.
Oh, man.
So, at that point, he reached back through the limbs, and I said, "Sir, we need to put the crossbow down, please." You know, like, so at that point, I drew the line, and I let him, you know, use the bang stick to kill it, and stuff like that. But for the most part, you know, I've never had anybody get bit. I've never really had a close call. You know, as fun as that can be towards, you know, working up the hype of the hunt, I don't need any close calls. So we make sure the gator is dispatched boat side. You know, typically I'm the first one to put my hands on it, unless the client is really sporty and I feel confident that I can, you know, gaff him, pin it. A lot of times, you know, I'll take the gator's mouth like this, and I'll take a gaff and pull it in his lower jaw to pull his mouth shut, and I'll pin him against, if I have the boat here, I'll pull his mouth shut and hold him pinned against the boat to where I'm holding his mouth shut, right? So if the client wants to tape him or whatever, I'm involved and I have some control. And if the gator starts to spin, then I take the gaff and I shove the gator's head back in the water and make sure that the client's out of the way.
Yeah. So but I know I hear a lot of fishing guides, you know, say, "Oh, we got a complete newbie. We got somebody who knew nothing, how to cast for them." Do you get people who are completely unexperienced?
Almost all of our clients are first
Really?
timers.
Oh
Yep.
wow.
Yeah. So
Yep, absolutely.
it keeps you on your
Yeah,
toes,
almost.
man. But if you can
Yeah,
keep
for
your
sure.
It makes it fun. I've killed a pile of gators, and I love doing it. I love it probably more than any other hunting. But my favorite part is watching a client light up.
yeah.
Just like you take somebody fishing, a kid fishing, or somebody, in the woods for the first time. It's the same thing with a gator, and I just enjoy watching them light up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like it sounds like you got this attention to detail, the safety, what's going on. Obviously, if you can take your kids out there and provide a safe environment for them, you can provide a safe environment for a 15, 16-year-old or even older, right? So you definitely have the right mindset of being able to keep people safe as they're doing their thing out there. So,
Yeah.
and
Exactly. That's played in big time to helping us. We had a client book a hunt for his fiance, and she got out there on the boat or next to the boat, and he surprised her and said, "Hey, we're not just going for an airboat ride; we're going on a gator hunt." And she literally was almost in tears because she was scared and embarrassed and didn't want to make him upset because she was gonna not go. And she literally talked to him. Things got a little loud. They walked over to their car. I'm seeing him like holding his head. He doesn't know what he's gonna do. He walks over to him and he says, "I'm sorry, Kev. I'll still pay you, but she's not gonna go." And I said, "Do you mind if I talk to her?" And he goes, "Good luck, buddy." So I walked over to her and I said, "Ma'am, I know you don't know me and I don't know you." I said, "But can I show you something?" And she goes, "Sure, but I got to tell you, I'm sorry. I can't do this." I said, "That's okay. Just let me show you this picture." And literally, it was that week that I took Hunter, who was 4 at the time, on his first hunt. And there was a picture of him on the bow of the boat with a 10-foot gator. And when she saw that, it changed her perspective.
Absolutely.
And she said, "You know what?" She said, "If you're confident enough and your wife is confident enough to let you take your son out there," she said, "I'll do this."
Yeah. Yeah.
So it got her over that hurdle too. And, what a blessing, because at the end of the hunt, she was high-fiving. She was thrilled. She was thanking us so much. And, like, she would have missed out,
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to catch up on some of the comments here that we've gotten here out there. So obviously people, Jackie, I believe, or Jack Brotz here is saying that the kiddos are being good and they're running around and jumping all over you. And so they're glad to see that happening.
That's Grandma.
Yeah, Grandma.
That's my mama.
I figured that was Grandma there. Sean's saying, this is a chance for you to brag, man. So talk about the big one. So I think we touched on that here on where you can go. We do have Kim talking about an LSU and Saint wrap for Greg. So that's on you, Kevin. I guess that's something you're working on there as a project there. And
yeah, that's my cousin. She wants a rod for her husband. I love it.
And we were talking about your first build, and Grandma still Grandma has she still remembers the all the mess you made in their house.
Sorry, Mom.
With all the epoxy on the dining room floor and possibly on the car. They probably never saw that as it was drying and dripping off on your way down to the Keys. And obviously Greg Davis is talking about his first gator is still up on his wall, and he just says he had a great time. And
that's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, so and the other thing that one of Sean's last comments here was that this is a going gator hunting is a bucket list item, and so what do you think about that? Do you think
I see it as a huge honor, and I think it's very true for a lot of people. Most of our clients do come down and they get their giant gator. We stay in touch. I take great pride in building relationships with our clients, both rod building and gator hunting. But a lot of them, they do it once, they get that giant trophy, and they relish it forever. I can't tell you how many of our clients, it amazes me, they do full body mounts. They'll take these big 10, 11, 12-foot gators, and they'll literally, no joke, I had a client, and part of it, he says it was the whole thing. He built an entire new house so that he could have a big enough, he wanted to have a big enough trophy room for his 12-foot gator.
Wow. So Fabian,
it's pretty
I
cool.
think you and I need to go to Florida and spend some days out with
No
Kevin
joke,
get,
man.
get this gator. It doesn't have to be 12 foot, but 11.9, whatever. And something we can hang up on our walls somewhere there at the shop, man. I think that would kind of take our shop to a different level, man. So.
That'd be pretty
So we spent a lot of time talking about gator hunting, just because for both Fabian and I, it's something new, something different. But let's talk about like get bit outdoors, specifically that caters a lot to the rod building. So when did that start, and how did that happen?
So I'll try to keep it short, but as a rod builder, I started building rods for friends of friends, and then built a little business out of it. I've kind of always been an entrepreneur, always had a lemonade stand, or, used to make our own baits and sell baits, and just had that spirit for nothing else other than to hopefully pay for my fishing gear. And, I always enjoyed, I'll never forget when I was, one of the first rods I ever had that was a good rod was a St. Croix rod. And I was probably 10, 11 years old, and I broke it in my grandma's trunk. And I called St. Croix, and they said, can we speak to your dad? And I said, no, this is my rod. And he said, at 11 years old, you're buying St. Croix rods. And I said, yeah. So all that to say, I've always appreciated quality, right?
Yeah, no.
So when I got into building, it was because I wanted to build a better rod, not so much for really being better, but there was applications that I just couldn't find off the shelf.
Absolutely.
And first thing off top of my head was we used to always go up to Gainesville and fish off my buddy's dock for big gar and big catfish. Well, I could never find a rod to throw a big bait really far without going to a big heavy saltwater stick. Mm-hmm. So long story short, once I built that kit, built rods for myself, built rods for friends, built a business, went to the University of Florida, had all my rod building stuff under my dorm room table, under my bed.
Were you building rods
go to class.
when you were at UF? Were you building rods for people there at school? And
absolutely.
Oh man, that's awesome,
yeah.
Man. That's just
I don't even know how many orange and blue rods I built, and a couple garnet and gold ones too. But there was a surcharge involved in that.
Yeah, you just kept them under the bed and let nobody you didn't want anybody to know you were involved in any of that, but.
Yeah. Now, I've got a good friend who's actually my first big customer. He bought my first, really nice set of custom rods. He was a Seminole fan, and to this day he doesn't know it. I don't know if Greg's watching or not, but under his handle of his FSU rod.
No, don't tell him that. He's gonna throw these rods away. Don't tell him.
No,
don't tell him.
He won't.
Don't tell him.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude. So I put go Gators, under there, of course.
You shouldn't have told him.
But it worked.
He went tear one up to check.
And within a few months, he went and won a big, massive sailfish tournament in the Keys on those rods.
Yeah. Oh man.
So yeah, so that's how I paid the bills through school. Was I'd go home, pull out that table, back to my dorm, wrap a few rods, and I'd sell them in bait shops. I'd sell them online. I'd do consignment, anything I could to. If I made $20 a rod, I did whatever I had to do to make money. And as a student, I had to do it.
But I imagine on top of that $20 that you made on top of your cost or whatever, you just enjoy doing it. I mean, you just there's something relaxing about it. Like it kind of gives you the opportunity to get away from whatever's going on, and whether it's classes or whatever kind of thing. It just, for me, it can be very relaxing to sit behind and just kind of have some music on and just kind of wrap a few guides and whatever. So.
Yeah, it is. And for a lot of people that we've done the classes with, they say the same thing. They agree it's kind of therapeutic. It's a way for them to turn down after a day of work or whatever. Once the kids go to bed, they go to their little man cave, and it's a great way to be involved in the sport and spend time and come out with a product that you're that much more connected to your experience with.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter how good or bad it is, it's going to work. And that's one thing that I try to tell a lot of our clients is that it's going to work, and it's going to suit you well, even though you may not appreciate it at that time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you're building custom rods for people. At what point does Get Bit Outdoors become what it is today?
So after building rods, I graduated from the University of Florida, continued to build rods, and somebody offered me a position at another company to do some customer service and tech support for them. That company was a distribution company for components, so I used to buy parts from. I worked for them for a few months and quickly realized I don't ever talk bad about anybody, but I quickly realized how cutthroat business could be. Um, so I'll be nice and leave it at that.
Yep.
And I just couldn't be in that environment.
Yeah.
Um, I'm too uptight, and I want to fix things to make people happy. And when I see things I don't like, I've got to remove myself.
Yeah.
So
I think that ties into one of Fabian's and I fundamental value is that at the end of the day it's all about people, and you got to treat people
yep.
well, and you got to take care of people, and you got to have people in mind, and having this cutthroat mentality may get you through the short term, but in long term I personally think it's a bad strategy. I don't think you build that long term equity in your brand, in your reputation, in your service, whatever it is you're doing. And I think it's the short game and not the long game.
Yeah, 100%. And when I left there, I didn't leave with any intentions other than finding a healthier job somewhere. We're in this industry even at that point. I'm looking at it like, these are amazing people choosing to buy from someplace because they want to have fun and build. Why shouldn't their buying experience in every part of the way be fun? They don't have to build a custom rod. They're not buying, something that they have to have. This is a choice to have fun. So let's make the buying fun, support them along the way. And I had to leave, and I left. I did odds and ends. I chartered for a while. I was a guide in Boca Grande, tarpon fishing for a number of summers. I worked odds and ends, did other rod building jobs, and then started to outfit and guide gator hunts as well. And at that time, my faith is a big part of everything in my life. Just kind of get set on fire for the Lord at the same time.
Yeah.
And said, just a lot of prayer saying, God, how can I tie this together? Do I pursue ministry? Do I pursue guide, being a guide? Or do I start a rod building business or a rod component business? And over time, Get Bit kind of popped in my head, and I said, why can't I marry all this together under one umbrella and somehow make it all work?
Yeah. Yeah, and you did an awesome job with that. I mean, I know, you and I are part of a lot of these rod building groups nationwide, and one of the things that stands out to me, and I made that comment on it a lot on the groups, but when people ask about, hey, I'm new to rod building, how do I get into it, where can I buy stuff, a lot of times the majority of people I see that are ponying are referencing people to you, and I reference people to you too, because that's how I got started too. But just not only in your ability to supply people with products, but just that, like you said, that relationship, that experience someone's gonna have when they're going through this new venture. Like, they have someone they can call, they have someone they can look up to. I mean, a lot of the stuff I learned about rod building was through watching you as I don't want to say you're 16 years old on these YouTube videos, but you're pretty darn young on these videos, showing us how to do stuff. It's like, okay, so between Kevin and Roger, I'm learning how to build how to build rods, and now it got to the point where I can take what you and other people said and put it together. But I mean, like, for me, like, to see that a huge majority of the group out there, or kind of the community, people that are wanting to join that community, are asking questions, and people that are within that community, they're directing them to you. I mean, that for me, that says a lot about kind of that the relationship and the experience that the service you've been able to provide people who are interested in this.
Well, it's very humbling. It's an honor. I get goosebumps just when I think about it and when I hear about it, and I wake up every day extremely thankful for where we've become, where we are. But I treat it as if it's day one every day. You start over, to always stay at that grassroots level we will never grow beyond what we can service
Yep.
and maintain that level of service. And in a lot of ways, people say that's, the way we do things might be silly because we hold the company back. We could be so much bigger. We could do so much more. It doesn't matter. You know, I'm not about any top line, bottom line. If my team is happy, our customers are happy, and that's all that matters to me. And so being able to take that personal time with every customer, make sure that, not just getting what they want, but getting the service that they deserve and having that good experience along the way. I didn't have that, but I had the passion to still pursue it. And that's what got me here. But there's a lot of people out there who may not have that passion, but if you help them, you could start that spark and then, help them pour fuel on that fire, and you never know where it's going to go for them.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would tie this back to Fabian right here. I think it's a good point to kind of do that. So Fabian, prior to this year, prior to us opening up our shop, Fabian was a teacher, and he left his job in teaching to kind of serve the fishing community. Granted, there's certain perks about it.
Wow.
But Fabian, what do you think about kind of being tied into the local fishing community? Obviously, Kevin's tied into it at a different level, at a broader scale than we are. But you kind of being tied into that local fishing community. What do you think? Some of those, what do you get out of that?
I mean, honestly, like you said, it's an excitement. And more than anything, it's humbling to, like, I think you said this earlier, and it kind of stuck in my head. I mean, it's humbling and it's exciting to know that somebody wants to come into the shop and either buy a rod that you built or buy a shirt that you designed. And it's like to have somebody actually come in here, and I see people like, oh, I came from Brownsville, I came from Harlingen, and to put it in perspective, that's about 45 minutes to an hour away, to buy a shirt or a rod from you. And it's like, that's like, I mean, that throws you back, man. And just like yesterday, I tell Sam, I go, yesterday was probably one of the first days that I kind of got frustrated with certain things going on in the shop. And one of them was our POS system wasn't working,
And he means
so our
cash
cash
he means point of sale, not
point of sale.
Not.
I'm sorry.
Although it could easily yesterday was it could have
A
easily
lot
been
of
It could have
something
gone
else.
both ways.
You can use both acronyms with those
It
things.
could have gone both ways. I just wanted to clear the air there, but
So the guy walks in and it's not working. I tell him, I'm so sorry. I go, I can't sell you this because I don't have this system working and I can't process your credit card. And he's like, let me go get some cash. And I thought, okay, he's gonna go and may not come back or not or whatever. He came back 2-3 minutes later. He's like, man, I ran by the store, picked up some cash, I came back. I'm like, to me that blew me back. It's like, man, he one really wanted that shirt, and two, it's like you didn't have to do that,
Right.
and like to the question that you're saying, Sam, it's like to me it's you have to do it right. Now I feel that pressure of, you know what, if people are actually willing to drive to the store and pick up something from us that are anglers that have the same passion that I have, I gotta do them justice, and like you said, give them as much as a good experience at the store as possible, because they're spending their hard-earned money there and they're spending their time to come over here and help us and support us. But at the same time, you need to give them that experience. It's not just about buying a rod or buying a shirt or whatever they're buying. It's about the experience that they get at the shop. And it to me, it's honestly, it's humbling, and I can't think of another word.
And I kind of knew you were gonna say that, Fabian. And the reason I asked that question is because Kevin's in Florida, we're in South Texas. You can argue they're completely different demographics, different markets, a lot of things, but we can all kind of normalize against a least common denominator, which is people, like how you treat people. And regardless of what you're doing, it's how you treat people that's going to allow you to people to like want to support you and help you. And it's the little things that you do that you may not think had a lot of value, like just like this week Kevin emailed me about an order that we had, you know, and like, and granted, other people had messaged me with Kevin, right? Like whatever, but like when Kevin takes the time, I know he's got a lot of stuff out there, but when Kevin takes the time to message me, hey man, we're doing this, is where your order is at, it means a lot, right? Because Kevin can easily say, hey, well Joe's gonna do this or John's gonna do this, and like whatever. But one thing that Kevin said right now is that, you know, he's maintaining his business, or kind of the opportunities that may present itself, because he wants to kind of maintain a certain level of customer engagement, and kind of a certain level of service. For me, I mean, I think that's what allows you to eventually scale and continue to grow your operation. And I think it's really cool to see that Kevin in Florida and us in Texas kind of have that same practice and that same idea, and it doesn't matter where you're at, you're going to. It's the right model, I think.
Yeah, and it is, and you sometimes you have to, and you feel like, I mean, right now, like you know, earlier I was texting back and forth with the customer, and I look at the clock and I'm like, man, it's 8 o'clock, but at the same time, it's like, you know what, I have to answer.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I just feel like I have to answer. I mean, if they're taking the time and ordering something or wanting to ask a question about our business, you know what, I deserve, they deserve that from us, and get a response.
Yep.
You know, and it's, even though it's 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever, if they're willing to send that comment or that question, then I have to be willing to give them that, you know. So I think you're right. I mean, it does go a long ways, but you have to have that passion in your business and not think about it again as I want to become a millionaire tomorrow. It's because we're doing it because we love what we're doing. I mean, at the end of the day.
Absolutely. The way I look at that a lot, because you're exactly right, Fabian. There's a lot going on in life, right? We're all busy. There's so many things going on, and especially as business owners, and you know, no matter where you're at, if you have responsibilities, we're always torn. So, well, how do we spend our time? And you know, a lot of the times there may be better, more productive things to do, but ultimately, you know, what I try to keep my mindset on is like, you know what, I don't have to answer that comment or take that call, but I get to, you know.
Yeah.
So when I put it in my mind that, you know what, how cool is that I get to help this person, you know, as opposed to there not being a person to help.
Yep.
You know. And this industry, I brag on it all the time, and it's the Lord's honest truth. The salt of the earth could not exist more in the people that we do business with. They are just true, amazing people with big hearts. You know, we do a good amount of business, and with that come mistakes.
Yeah.
And we will own those mistakes all day long and make them right. And sometimes, you know, as silly as it may seem, we feel like, man, this guy should be screaming at me, you know, but they're forgiving. And sometimes there's customers that just don't want to be happy. Let's face it,
They're not going to be happy.
no matter
matter
what you
yeah,
do.
like even if you give them what they ask for, they're not going to be happy. I know.
You know, I could say, hey, look, I'm gonna, you know, wrap your rod in gold.
I hope I'm not one of those, Kevin, and it never
No.
you think that's me. So.
No, but you know, it's something I share with our customer service team often is, you know, we have to come from the mindset of the customer every time and realize that they may have had a bad day, they may have had whatever happened, or just maybe they don't want to be happy, but ultimately we have to try to find a way to, if nothing else, let them know that we genuinely care. And all we can do beyond that is just be real with them. And it's amazing. Once you do that with somebody, I can't tell you how many people we have turned and just say, you know what, I was a jerk. And you guys made me smile, you know? And halfway through that conversation, you're like, you know what, I want to just write this guy off and let him go.
Yeah.
Because maybe, you know, he's gone too far in how he's reacting. But if you stay the course, stay true, don't get worked up, don't get emotional, and let the consistency flow and let that customer soak it up. I mean, it's amazing how many people will just turn around and be like, you know what, I'm a customer for life because I was in a bad mood. You know, or it may not be right then.
Yeah,
I had a customer, I know, he called me back 2 days later, you know, and said, hey, I want to apologize about this conversation I had with you. But you guys are awesome. You turned it around. And I see those opportunities as the best way to tell somebody who you really are, right?
Absolutely. So I agree exactly with what you said. One of the things that you said that stood out with me is that bad things are going to happen. No matter who you are, bad things are going to happen. It's how you respond to these bad things that really differentiate the type of business or person you are. And you know, like one thing that you said is you know you're trying to figure out the bad things already happened. Like you can't do anything about it. It's happened, and the bad thing can be so many different things, right? And the bad things are based on, you know, perspective, and they're subjective, right? Some people may take a piece of news one way versus someone else may take it as a different way, right? But it's how you respond to it. And what you said is that you're going to go out of your way to try to make that right and what you think is right. Like that just has a lot of I mean that resonates with me because that I mean that's what our business model is about. It's about treating people with respect, treating people on, and being honest with people, and just kind of having that integrity and telling people this is what the situation is. Hey, like I know you ordered this rod 3 or 4 weeks ago and it's not delivered to you, but this is why. But I'm working on it, and what can I do to make this right for you? And I think just having that transparency around. I mean, we had a customer wait like 5 weeks for a rod not too long ago, and I agree with you. He could have been extremely upset and canceled and said, "Hey, I don't want this anymore. You guys took too long." But no, he said no. And then as soon as we kind of gave him his rod, he's all like, "Dude, this is awesome." And kind of like kind of the way we managed that conversation along the way had a lot to do with it. And then you know now he's talking about wanting to buy another rod. And I think you're right. It's just how you manage these things that don't go ideally. It have a lot to do with it.
I think you can't lose the perspective, you know, because again, being involved with this business and having to depend on other people and so forth, you know, customer service is huge. But the one thing that I kind of felt from people was it was the "you need me, I don't need you" type of attitude. And I think the perspective that I always keep in the back of my head is like, no, I need you. You know, if I want to stay in business, I need you. You know, so I need to go out of my way to make it right with these people. And it doesn't matter, you know, if they're ordering, like, you know, let's say on the apparel side, if they're ordering 3 shirts or 50 shirts, those 3-shirt order is going to take the same attention as a 50-shirt order. And I got to make sure that they understand, hey, I need those 3 shirts being bought.
Yeah.
You know, and they need to feel that way. And I remember, you know, dealing with just different companies or whatever. Like I always felt like, man, I'm coming to you and to pay you, you know. And I got the other, you know, feeling of like you're telling me I need you more, you know. And I think I keep that in perspective all the time. It's like, no, I mean these customers coming in, like I need them.
Yeah.
And I don't tell them straight out, but you know, we try and do it through the customer service.
Yeah. Fortunately, you know, that's always the small percentage, right? You know.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, or 9.5 times out of 10, you know, those are always avoided. But that can be the hard part too, because you know, I don't know how much business you guys do online, but I wish we could do more face to face to meet people, shake hands, and have that interaction. And with the internet, you know, we typically print an order, pick it, pack it, ship it, and never get to talk to a customer. So a lot of times, you know, as weird as it may sound, you know, I don't want to say I like it, not to the point where I want to make something bad happen, but you know, if there is something wrong, I get to talk to a customer, or one of my team members does, and then show how much we care that much more that they wouldn't have known if they just got their product and went about their day.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I met Kevin early on in my rod building campaign, and kind of when I was learning it and asking him, even like my first power wrapper I bought through Kevin. And I remember like I just kind of like I saw Kevin up on it put Kevin up on a pedestal because he was this big guy or big relative. I know Kevin. Once I met him, I realized he wasn't so big. But once I saw him face to face, but I realized he wasn't that big. But he was kind of like my height. But nonetheless, you know, I had Kevin up on this pedestal up here, and not to say he doesn't deserve to be. Definitely deserves to be up there. But you know, I had Kevin in a different mindset. And one day, like my family and I, it was last year, or I think it was last year, we took a family vacation and we went out to Florida. We went out to Disney World, and I just like I reached out to Kevin. Hey Kevin, like I'm gonna be in your area, in the Orlando area. Would it be okay if I like stop by your shop just to check it out? And he's like, yeah, man, come on in. And like when I got out there, and it's like it's completely different. Like even though I knew Kevin for many years, like buying stuff from him, like once I had that like face to face relationship, it just changed everything. Like it's like man, like now I can resonate with Kevin as a person. And it just kind of it definitely changed that type of relationship. So I echo what Kevin says is like as you can build these relationships, whether it's phone call, face to face, or whatever, like that goes a long way in being able to sustain long term equity in whatever it is you're doing.
Sure, and it makes it more fulfilling, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the numbers don't matter. And it's, where's your heart? Are you happy? You know, did you have a good day? Did you talk to good people? Did you help people? Beyond that, you know, it's just numbers. You know,
So Kevin,
so if you're not building, go
yeah, I
ahead.
was gonna say I've already I kind of extended my what the time commitment I asked you for, but I've got two last questions here before I obviously I see Hunter's pretty excited. He might want to get into that snack the pantry up again, but
He's already rated it. It's empty.
oh, that's what he's asking you. He's asking you to refill it. But the question I have for you is: so a lot of people, someone who's looking to get into rod building, uh, what kit, if you will, quote unquote, quit kit, would you recommend them or direct them to either starting their rod building campaign? From a rod building perspective, where should they start from a sense of equipment?
Sure. I mean, ultimately, you know, like I've seen a couple of the videos with Bill and a few other guys there, you can start with as little or as much as you want. I mean, I literally built my first rod like a lot of people with a cardboard box and V-notches cut out of it and spun it by hand. We sell kits, I
And
think,
you were
as low as,
referring to Bill in Houston, right? Menzel.
yeah,
Yeah, all right, yeah.
yep,
Who's a legend, by
yeah,
the way? Another legend.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely. I don't know if we lost you there. My feed just kind of changed, but it's all good if you're both still there.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, we can hear
Um,
you.
but so we sell kits as low as $17, and you can take that with a little bit of epoxy and build you a fishing rod. It's going to fish great and perform for years to come until you stick it in the fan. You know, but we also have complete kits. So the most inexpensive kit is actually $10.95 for our mahogany kit, and just type in mahogany on our website. You can find them. If you want a more complete kit, we sell a Get Bit startup kit that comes with a hand wrapper, with your epoxies, with the parts for the rod, and I think that kit's right around $80-$90. You can get into that, or if you want to, get in, you say, hey, no, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I know I'm going to build a number of rods, and you want to get into a hand wrap or a power wrapper, and we've got kits with power wrappers as well.
Yeah, I honestly, I personally like recommend anybody who's willing to build who's planning to build more than like maybe two rods, get into the power wrapper, especially whether it's the Alps or whatever kind of similar type thing that can do both your turning and your drying in the same device. And so I know you push a lot of the Batson Alps out there. Actually the same power wrapper I have right now too. One of them. I've
Yeah,
got
absolutely.
some flex code as well too.
Yeah, that Alps wrapper there, I don't push anything to push it. Honestly, it's a matter of helping people enjoy their builds that much more, and that's what a Alps wrapper does for you, because you have both hands free. Um, you can build a rod a little quicker. It's less frustrating. Not that building a rod by hand and spinning it, is frustrating, but it's just nicer to have both hands available to work with thread and do different, do what you have to do. And obviously, the more fun you have, the more enjoyment you have in the build, the more you're going to build. So a power wrapper helps you do that.
Yep. And so we talked about kind of like how to get started. The other question I have for you is, I know this year ICAS has been virtual. Have you been partaking in kind of the virtual sessions that they've been doing?
I have not. Most of the vendors that, oh, you got a pup, but check that out.
Also say, oh,
Love it. I love it. I have not. So the vendors that I do business with, and I have relationships with, for the most part, aren't doing any virtual iCasts. And just for that reason, there, as busy as I am in odds and ends, my Gator season, as far as public land, starts here in a month, actually a month from today. Um, I've got so much going on that I haven't had time to take part of the buzz. But have you? Have you?
No, I haven't, and that's one thing I was going to ask you to try to see if like kind of what your take on ICAST is. Not necessarily this year, but like just in general. Like I know you've participated in it in previous years, and just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on kind of what ICAST is.
Yeah. So it's different for everybody, right? So for me, it's kind of like a homecoming. It's a chance where I get to be with, I should say homecoming, more of a family reunion, where I get to go see my brothers in the industry. I literally consider, our vendors and relationships we have, almost the same as my blood. They're family to me. And when I get to see them all in the same room and, go from booth to booth, it's like seeing one group of cousins over here and go seeing your uncle over here. And, like, I love these guys. So to me, it's not really about the product, although that's cool too. The product's like the food for me. You got to have good food,
Fair
but
enough, yeah.
it's all about the people,
Yeah.
So to me, it's really just a reunion. A lot of these people I don't get to see, but once a year, I talk to them almost daily, if not daily, weekly on most occasions. But when I get to see them, spend time with them in the booth, half the time we don't even talk product or business.
Yeah.
It's just catching up. And again, like we keep talking about and relating to, it's the relationships that are just second to none in this industry. And when you have that, it just makes business that much easier. Not to say you may not still have an agreement or see eye to eye because people do business differently, but it gives you that underlying appreciation for, hey, you know what? We didn't agree on this in business, but I know so and so is still a good guy, and it's all good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, man.
that's ICAST for me in a nutshell.
No, one thing you said right there, and I kind of close it out with this is that I think whatever business you're in, I mean, I work in the oil and gas industry, and even that's like heavily relationship based, and there's a lot to it. At the end of the day, it's about treating people well, and kind of having that sincere kind of down to earth, kind of real self awareness that what's the value you're adding, and how are you helping people become and achieve what they want to do. And I mean, again, I take my hat off to you for the support you've had over what we've done. I mean, without you, we wouldn't have been able to be doing the stuff that we're doing today, and just like that. But I mean, it's just the small things you do, and being able to maintain these relationships with people. And anyone that's looking to either start a fishing guiding business or a rod business, I mean, baby, it knows like we have a lot of, and it's kind of odd because people come to our shop and they'll ask us questions about, granted we make rods and we sell rods under our name, but we also supply and promote people from creating to creating their own rods, right? So like, hey man, like if you want to go and start your own rod company, this is how you do it, and we give people that guidance, and we're sincerely trying to help people. And I think if you have that kind of self awareness and that northern star, as you kind of alluded to, this is who we are. This is, regardless of what happens, this is the direction we're going to head in. I think that's important for anybody to not only be successful, but to kind of maintain a business this is who we are.
Yeah, you got to have that core, and you got to stick to it. And just like you guys, I mean, we started from nowhere, nothing, and I love that because the people who we deal with, they come to us with big ideas and whatnot, and we get to help facilitate it, right? We've all been told no, or you shouldn't do that, or that's a crazy idea. And I love that because I'm like, you know what? thank you for telling me no, because now I'm definitely going to do it. And, pour fuel on the fire. But not everyone has that mindset, right? Some people, you tell them no, and they're like, oh, I should do something else. And I want to be the guy that tells them, you know what, go for it,
Yeah.
and help them out, because not everyone's as stubborn or thick-headed as I might be,
Yeah.
and you never know, you're gonna help somebody out and change their life.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't have been given that kit,
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be here.
I- yeah. But
You know?
based on the type of person you are and kind of your normalization of kind of values, you'd be successful. You'd just be successful in a different area. So that's kind of my take on it. So people that are going to be successful are going to be successful. It just depends on where they're going to be successful at. But I mean, I think like based on the conversations and kind of the relationship I have with you is, I mean, like Kevin, you'd be successful whatever it is you decided to do based on kind of that least common denominator set of values and what it is you believe in and how you go about treating people.
I hope so. I mean, it's an amazing honor and a blessing to be where we are. It's truly a dream come true. There was many times where I said, even when I was starting to get bit a year or two in, I had applications out elsewhere, because I'm like, this isn't working. I mean, what am I gonna do?
Yep.
And just through prayer and persistence, and it's like every time that you think you may be coming to an end, you get one more little nugget, and I don't know, maybe I'd be successful doing something else, but I don't think I'd be happy.
Yeah,
I love.
I don't think you would have enjoyed it as much, man. And that's something else, right? So enjoying and being successful or whatever. At the end of the day, I tell people to be happy. Like success should be success should be measured. It can be, but it should be measured in the sense of happiness. How happy you are. It's hard to measure happiness. It's easy to measure revenue. It's easy to measure profit. It's hard to measure happiness and kind of put a value behind it. And that's why I look at you and now Fabian. I mean, you guys are having the time of your lives, and I'm like punching my head over here, like, man, these guys got it down, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But nonetheless, like I really like respect what both of you guys are doing in sense of being able to kind of realize what it is that makes you happy and doing that. And so
I think at the end of the day, man, I love that you keep alluding to your faith and to what you're doing, Kevin. And there's a song Kevin that Van Zant sings, and it's a simple line that says, "Help somebody if you can, and get right with a man." And I think that's like what you have to live by in business and life. If you can help somebody out, And like you said, many times you thought of quitting, but I think if you put your faith in front of you and you just kind of say, you know what, God, give me a sign here, and most of the time he does. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, and guys like yourselves, I mean, it's awesome, right? I mean, how cool is it we get to sit here from, states away to sit here and talk about good stuff like this?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Well, we got to recognize that Kevin's in Florida and he's an hour ahead of us, so it's 9:30 where Kevin's at, and the kids have probably raided the pantry and kind of torn up the house.
They're loving it.
Well, they're like, we should do this once a week, and if you want to do this once a week, we can figure out a way to make that happen. But I know your wife would probably have different thoughts about that. But nonetheless, we'll. I think this is a good place to end it. I mean, one thing I got from this was, treat people the way you want to be treated. Give more than what you take. Have a higher purpose than what it is you think you is. Like maintain visibility of what your northern star is and what you're trying to achieve. And it's not all about you. It's about the people you're trying to serve.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, I'll just encourage everyone, if you can, find a way to pursue a passion. And find a way to maybe share someone else's passion and help them pursue it, and that just creates fulfillment that you can't find elsewhere.
Yep. Yeah, light that fire under somebody, like Fabian once said before. So help them choose whatever it is that does it. So, but Kevin, thanks again. I know you talked about kind of a lot of the different things. You had a lot of reasons to to not come on today. Obviously, your wife's running around, you're babysitting, you're trying to do a lot of things, you're roping and doping a little bit, but I definitely appreciate the time you took to come out and hang out with us, and it means a lot to Fabian and I that, and to as well as to our audience to do that, as well as like we promote and push people to your products, whether it's blanks or threads or whatever it is, or threads or whatever it is, rod building components. We have a few things in there, but really we're pushing, like in our shop, we're pushing completed rods, and we have a few blanks out there, but when someone's looking at getting rod building, we're pushing them your way. So hopefully you're seeing that from our side, and but nonetheless, thank you very much for coming on out here. And I honestly, me and my daughter are waiting to visit you again in your shop, because my daughter knows if we go visit you, we're going to Disney World again, and so whenever that happens. But now I think now I'm in a position, or both Fabian and I are in a position where that when we see you, we can kind of make a business trip out of going, seeing you, doing some gator hunting, and maybe going to see Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, and and having a good time around that. So
no doubt about it. I would love to have you guys come down, and at some point we'll come up there and go fishing. Just be a blast, no doubt.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much for your time,
Kevin. Thanks a lot, and make sure that pantry stays stocked. I don't know what the right word is, but thanks again, Kevin. Appreciate your time here.
Hey, no problem, guys. Thank you. God bless you both.
All right, thanks. God bless you.